Hi, and welcome back. In this lecture, we learned about the three-pillar method. And the three-pillar method is an ethical framework that is used to confront an ethical dilemma. And so I thought it would be worthwhile to walk through a hypothetical dilemma and to explain exactly how the three-pillar method would work. So let's look at a proposed hypothetical, which is to say there's a clothing company well known for its trendy designs, but also known for its commitment to social responsibility. And they are facing rising production costs. Inflation's everywhere, things are costing more. They want to maintain their profitability, and so they are now considering outsourcing some of the manufacturing to a country with lower labor costs. However, there are reports of poor working conditions and potential child labor in this country's factories. So this is the problem that the company faces. Should they outsource their manufacturing capacity to a country that perhaps may exploit child labor? So we begin our analysis by looking at the ethical issues. And these are the ethical issues that would appear. Now, when you hear this problem and when you hear this hypothetical, no doubt one of the things you will think of first is the problem of human rights and the potential exploitation of workers in the outsourcing country, the country which is now going to be where the manufacturing is based. So there's a human rights concern. There's also a social responsibility concern. This outsourcing decision would conflict with a company's established image and its values. There's also the problem of consumer trust, that there is a risk of damaging the brand's reputations if ethical violations are exposed. And finally, there's the legal question, legal compliance, ensuring adherence to international labor laws and standards to ensure that, at a minimum, what you are doing is legal. So this is where we are. This is the stance of the decision that we face. And so we apply the three-pillar method. Remember the three-pillar method: strategy, law, and ethics. And we begin by looking at the strategy pillar. Now, when it comes to strategy, remember this is about making a decision that will increase the company's value. So our goal in this decision is to maintain our profitability, meaning we can keep our prices the same while maintaining the same profit, and our competitiveness, because no doubt we have competitors who may not have our same standards and may be willing to make sacrifices in terms of ethical responsibilities. But our goal is to maintain profitability and competitiveness. So when we look at that, when we analyze it in relation to the strategy perspective, we know that outsourcing might lower cost in the short term, but there are these potential negative implications that this is going to have on our brand reputation and on our consumer trust. And in time, those will hurt our long-term profitability. So the benefit of this decision may be very short-term. And finally, if we look at alternative strategies, meaning ways to maintain profitability and competitiveness without outsourcing, that could offer itself both ethical benefits but also financial benefits. So that's analysis of the strategy decision, which is to say we want to maintain our profitability and competitiveness. And we see two ways that can be done. Now we turn to the law. The law is about compliance. So how do we ensure that if we outsource our manufacturing to this country, how can we make sure they are following the law? So what this will require is us to thoroughly investigate labor practices in the outsourcing country to ensure they comply with international laws and the company's own code of conduct. And it's also going to be important to do our due diligence, meaning not only do we address these problems beforehand, but we maintain a system of strict monitoring and random auditing to prevent and to address any legal violations. To say that we have instituted procedures to guarantee that these negative things, these illegal events, are not happening. So that's the strategy pillar, the law pillar, and now we turn to ethics. Remember, in the 3-pillar method, we look to see, first of all, does the decision create value? That's strategy. Is it legal? And that's the law pillar. And now we turn to the ethics pillar, the ethical pillar. And in this case, we want to make sure that our decision, in terms of whether to outsource or not, aligns with our company's core values of social responsibility and ethical business practices. So we have to consider our stakeholders. We need to engage with our stakeholders, including employees, consumers, and potentially NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to understand what their concerns and expectations are in regard to producing goods in this country. And then we also have a moral obligation to consider the potential harm to workers in the outsourcing country and our responsibility, our company's responsibility to uphold human rights. So that's the strategy, law, and ethic pillars. And now we come to our time we have to decide. And so what is the outcome, the most ethical and sustainable decision? Well, first of all, we could seek alternative sourcing options, meaning there may be countries that will also allow for a lower cost of production, but who have better labor practices. Or in the country in which we're looking, we could invest in more ethical factories, again, backed by our routine monitoring and auditing procedures. So we could seek alternative sourcing options, either in another country or ensure that situations are better in the country we've chosen. Transparency and communication. Be transparent. Why is the company doing this? Be honest with our stakeholders. Let them know why we are making this sourcing decision. And then also explain what our efforts going to be to ensure ethical practices in conjunction with the production of goods at this factory. And finally, stakeholder engagement. Once again, we will collaborate with labor rights organizations and other stakeholders to improve working conditions in the supply chain. There are international standards that we can implement to ensure ethical working conditions wherever a good is produced. So, in conclusion, what does this analysis show? The 3-pillar model provides a structured approach to navigate complex ethical dilemmas. We know that ethical considerations are not separate from business strategy, but are integral to long-term success. And finally, we talked about engaging with stakeholders and prioritizing transparency can build trust and minimize our risks. That's all for this one. Look through it again, make sure you understand where we're going with this, and make sure that you could confront a problem using this same methodology. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.